We found out what type of market Walker Kessler is probably going to get with his contract next offseason during restricted free agency. Let's talk about it. It's the Hoops Nerd Show. All right, guys, before we get into this, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Okay, so Walker Kessler is officially going into restricted free agency this next offseason. This was the deadline today for that to happen. So Utah will have another full season of Walker Kessler and then restricted free agency. We'll see how that goes. There were some contracts that were signed today, though, and I think they were for some pretty comparable players that can give us an idea of probably what we can expect for a contract with Walker Kessler. Doesn't necessarily mean that's what Walker Kessler wants, but let's look at this. So first, Aaron Nesmith on the Indiana Pacers, starting caliber player, great defensive player, core piece of that starting unit for that team, but not an all-star, kind of like Walker Kessler. He gets a $40 million contract for 2 years, so he is looking at $20 million per year. Another contract was signed. This was for Dyson Daniels. He got a 4-year, $100 million contract. That was $25 million a year, so nice contract for Daniels, although it had been reported like a week ago that he was looking for a 5-year, $150 million contract, $30 million. Did not happen, but he does get $25 million over 4 years instead of 5. Interesting change there, and he must be happy because he got more than Nesmith. And like Nesmith, Dyson Daniels is an incredible defensive player, all defensive caliber guy, starting guy, probably not an all-star though. You never know, he might get better. But that's where he's at. Similar to Kesler, all defensive caliber guy, starter, not an all-star. Finally, we look at, let's see, Toumani Camara, high-level elite defensive player for the Portland Trail Blazers, starting caliber guy. He got a 4-year, $82 million contract, $20.5 million on average per season. Yes, all of these players are not centers like Walker Kessler, but they are similar in kind of that they're starters, they are non-all-stars, they are defensive first players, similar to Walker Kessler. Some of these players you could argue are a little bit more valuable in some ways because, you know, someone like Dyson Daniels shoots the 3. Same thing with Camara shoots it. I can't remember how well he shoots it, but we do know that Nesmith shoots it extremely well and was a big part of that Indiana Pacers team. What this tells me is that Walker Kessler is likely going to garner, if the Jazz can pay him, probably $20 million a year. I think that's what he's worth for a player who has not shot from the free throw line very well, has not consistently shot the 3-ball well. There's a limit to what you probably should be paying him. It's right now what Walker Kessler is basically a diet Rudy Gobert. And that's a good player. There's nothing wrong with that. If the Jazz pay him between $15 and $20 million a year this upcoming restricted free agency, that's a great deal. Now, if you get over $20 million a year, things start getting pretty interesting. And guess what? Walker Kessler is not the only player that did not get a big contract. There are some other guys that are some bigger names that probably some people are pretty surprised they didn't sign. Jaden Ivey, yes, he's coming off of an injury, but he was a big part of their future. A top 5 pick does not get that contract signed, so he's going into restricted free agency. Ben Mathurin, high-level scorer for the Indiana Pacers, no contract. Let's see. Tari Eason is probably another one. Big-time defensive player. Starting caliber guy. He comes off the bench for Houston, but that's mostly because they're loaded. But he is an elite athlete, elite defensive player. and kind of an all-around guy. If he can shoot the ball, he becomes extremely interesting. In fact, Utah going into this upcoming offseason might be interested in signing someone like Tari Eason. If they win the lottery and you can sign a Tari Eason and then get Walker Kessler in restricted free agency and get both of them on pretty good deals, then you might have yourself a really interesting team and you can fix some of your defensive issues. It's interesting, though, that the Jazz are worried very much at keeping that cap space. Next offseason, Utah's going to have something like $46 million in cap. Now, that might change based off of what contracts they give, and obviously if they give one to Walker Kessler, then that changes things. But they will have space, and if Utah wants to go out and, let's say Utah gets their top 3 pick this year, which we're all hoping for, and then they have all this cap space in the offseason, they can go out and get some nice players. You know, these are players that are going to be on the market. Jaden Ivey. You know, if Utah wins and they decide they want Cam Boozer and they want a nice guard in free agency, they could go out and sign Jaden Ivey. They wouldn't even have to trade for him. And he's a player that I've been interested in Utah trading for potentially with Detroit in a Lowry Markkanen deal. But at this point, you're going to have to look at signing him this upcoming offseason. Maybe Utah would be okay with that. That's another element of this because Utah can get bird rights with these guys. And guess what? You can go over the cap and sign these guys if they're on your team. And that's part of the reason Utah's waiting. If Utah signs Walker Kessler now, then that cap space is taken up. But if Utah waits till this upcoming free agency, restricted free agency that is, let's say they go out and they decide, and Jaden Ivey's on the market, and they're willing to overpay a little bit to bring him on the Jazz because he fits with what they're doing, and they have rookie contracts, then they could go and sign Jaden Ivey and then sign Walker Kessler, and because he's already on their team, they can go over the cap, and they're not worried about it. That's probably what they're thinking. At the same time, we also know that Walker Kessler was asking for a lot. And this market is pretty much telling us what there is. And the teams out there are strapped for cash. This might actually work out pretty well for Utah in certain ways. If they play their cards right, they might be able to get Walker Kessler for 15 to 20 million because that might be the only thing out there for him. It kind of depends. At the same time, Utah has to be careful because there are teams out there that are also going to have some free agency money. For example, Washington Wizards will have $80 million in cap space. The Clippers, 71. The Lakers, 54. The Jazz, 47. The Nets, 44. The Bulls, 33. So there are teams out there that will have space. So that is one thing Utah has to decide is, do they want to play that game? Because we know that Walker Kessler was not happy about getting the contract already. So he might be not worried about doing the Jazz a favor because obviously the Jazz are doing what's best for them. If the Lakers are out there and they want to give a contract to Walker Kessler and Kessler decides, hey, I don't have any loyalty here because I didn't get a contract, he might move. And so Utah might have to look at some sort of move this upcoming season before the trade deadline, right? Only Utah and Walker Kessler know exactly what they're kind of expecting to pay. And only Walker Kessler knows exactly what he wants. Maybe that report will come out at some point and we'll find out, But it's clear that the Jazz and Kessler were not seeing eye to eye on how much. That is undebatable. We'll see what happens this upcoming free agency, but I think this is a little bit trickier of a situation than people are probably giving it credit, because I think there is more going on than just simply we want to get the best cap situation possible. Maybe Walker Kessler is really in on it, but he said out of his own mouth he was frustrated about it. So that makes me want to watch this situation very closely. We'll see what happens. Guys, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you to all the members. There's two new member-only videos available. Go join the channel. You can go watch those. If you are an all-star, you get the shout-outs during the live streams, and I'm working with YouTube to do some more. So let me know, what would you love from the memberships? What would you want me to do? Let me know in the comments, and also make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. All right, I will talk to you next time.